Welcome to the panel discussion about scope for women in the visual effects industry. Pooja, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Pooja Parekh, and I'm currently working with DNEC as the global RPM head. Before this, I have worked with MPC, and I've also worked with Cinesite and Rhythm and News. I've been in this industry now for almost 17 years, and it's where you can make your dreams come true. It's where you can fantasize about something and make it a reality. And that's what I've been doing since last 17 years, and never felt a minute bored or tired of working in this industry. It's challenging always. And I think other things we could discuss when we are in the panels, because I'm sure there'll be answers that would be pertaining, being as we are currently stereotyped as how women like to work in this industry. So I think some of it I'll answer there. Over
Thank
to
you.
you, Nancy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can go next. Hi, everyone. I'm a virtual production producer at the Epic London Lab. Over there, I focus mostly on on-set physical production. Both we do a lot of tests here in our lab as well as R&D work, but we also support a lot of high-profile as well as independent projects going all around the European region. Before that, I was working at MPC, more in a traditional VFX role, covering heavy effect shows like Pirates of the Caribbean, Alien, Covenant, as well as a lot of photorealism, full CG work like Lion King and Jungle Book. Nice to be here today. Yeah. Over to you, Vicky.
So my name is Vicky, and I've worked on over 30 plus projects at over 20 plus studios in the United States, mostly in Los Angeles. I've worked on The Walking Dead, Guardians of the Galaxy, Aquaman, a few of the titles probably some people in audiences have seen, mostly as a visual effects compositor, but I'm also a generalist. So I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and I also have a book on visual effects. So yeah, there you go.
Excellent, excellent. That is so fantastic. What is the book called, Vicky?
It's called Why I Do VFX, The Untold Truths About Working in Visual Effects.
We should post that over there in the chat so people can review it or get it. I think that's a fantastic thing. I am Vani. They also call me Saraswati. I work right now with a company, a development studio, primarily focusing on the creative aspects of storytelling. It's called Dancing Atoms. I'm the creative director over there. And prior to that, I was with DreamWorks Animation as well as Rhythm and Hues, and worked at a lot of other studios. So my goal is to really bridge the gap in storytelling and bring Indian stories to the rest of the world. I'm going to be a moderator today, and I'm super excited to have you, wonderful, wonderful, power-packed woman, as I call you. So let's talk a little bit about your childhood, on when you were children, all of you, and we'll do rapid questions so we can keep it short and sweet. What was the first thing that inspired you to say, this is where I'm going, this is what I like, and then eventually realizing this is what I want to be doing? Did that happen at a very early childhood, or did that happen accidentally?
So I guess I'll go first. So I was 14 years old. I was really quiet, shy kid, and I didn't have any friends. I was bullied a lot. That's why I didn't have any friends. So I was given a camcorder at 14, and that's how I kind of found my voice, because I felt like as a quiet, shy kid, I didn't have a voice. So video recording turned into video editing, and then video editing turned into visual effects, because it became an outlet for self-expression for me. So that's how I am right now in this world of visual effects.
Oh my God, that's just so beautiful. Pooja.
So for me, actually, I'm an engineer before I got into this fascinating world. It's just that I think when I was growing up, I found web designing, I found cartoons like She-Ra, He-Man, and all very exciting. And I wanted to go in that stream, but I think when you're growing up, and especially Indian families are a little conservative. They only know few sort of careers, which is being a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. So I got picked into picking up engineering, but slowly, gradually realized it's not my cup of tea. I don't enjoy it. So, and I was always and then came out this fascinating movie, Matrix. And that's when I said, this is what I love, and this is what I really would love to do. And that's when I took up plunge and decided to do my master's in 2D, 3D animation. And from there, it's never been stopping. I think, as Vicky said, yes, it's one way you can express yourself. It's bring your dreams to reality. And I think I enjoy doing that. And I love art overall. I love painting. I love photography. So I've always been attracted to art.
Got it. Thank you, Pooja. That's so inspiring to get and see.
Yeah, I think for me, it was when I was growing up, the jobs I was aspiring to do are things like I wanted to dig out dinosaur bones. I wanted to like gaze in the stars and was inspired to be sort of like a cosmonaut. And all of those things, I didn't really get into VFX until I wish I had a film like Matrix to reference. I really was watching like Ender's Game. Somehow that it's not the biggest film, but when I was watching that, I realized if I want to be a storyteller, maybe VFX is a great industry to get into and to start. And you have a lot of control over the amount of pixels on the screen. Maybe that's the first time when I thought maybe VFX is a great way to go to get into the storytelling industry. But now at Epic, as a more of a portfolio manager and looking at all these different projects I want to use the engine and virtual production different ways. Now we have David Attenborough working with us. We have Brian Cox, who's a physicist I always looked up to when I was growing up. So I think for the first time, all those earlier inspirations are coming in and coming together. So that's been great.
What I wanted to take away from this path is that, that we all have our inner child in us, right? And how happy is your inner child? Happy?
Very happy.
I think so. True. Yeah, happy and fulfilled.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. The reason I ask these questions, is of course everybody can go and Google us and, read about who we are and what we do in terms of our positions and designations. But at the end of the day, if this place that we come from is a happier place, then we kind of are kinder to ourselves and kinder to everybody else around us. In terms of technical stuff, I know that some of you are managing, some of you are more technical, some of you are on the creative front as well. Can you talk a little bit about why you went that direction? Was that something that you had a choice, or were you that was the easy way to get in and stay there, or was it? How did you make the choices that you made to be where you are today? At an entry level, like if you were 20 years younger, like at that point, did you feel you had all the options that today the talent has?
Maybe I can start. For me, I was doing independent film production more. I'm from my strength is the production side, so I was sort of first AD. I was script supervisor, taking various different roles on these independent productions in my spare time. I was working at Microsoft. I was a typical on the engineering track person. And as I was getting deeper and deeper into independent film production, I realized there is just so many challenges with marketing and getting your story out there. Maybe the world is very different now. As a YouTuber, as an influencer, maybe you could do a better job distributing your story. But it was a real blocker for me to see hundreds of people pour their work into this art and nobody really gets to see it except a few film festivals. So that was quite disheartening. So I decided I really want to go into higher budget production. And at which point, when I research all the different disciplines, the one that is most warm and welcoming and is willing to take a lot of entry level people and train them up to become, core part of their teams was VFX. And to today, I think VFX, I will add virtual production in there as well. But aside from those, I still see, like, if I talk about how many production design and art departments do we have in London, I would say like there's a handful of them, maybe like 4 to 5 production designer that could control $40 billion film industry, right? There is very few of those positions, very difficult to break in. But you look at VFX, like Lion King, Jungle Book have about 1,000 people crew. There is a lot more opportunity to go in there and make a difference. If you're really good, you get promoted very quickly, right? So I still think that's still true today.
So for me, it was mainly because I was more technical. I had always done more of, I knew coding, I knew things. I realized that picking up the technical aspect and match move at that point, the camera tracking area was quite technical, where I could use all my skill sets of perspectives, about cameras and things like that. So I thought that was an easy way entry in. And as Nancy said, when we were all growing up, there were way far more jobs in the creative side than into production side. And I always wanted to be in the creative side. I always wanted to try out different things that I had learned in my courses. And being an artist helps you that. And I think just with my 4 or 5 years in rhythm and news, I was able to tap into a lot of different departments and get a feel of what I really loved and what I would really want to make a niche in. And that's where I realized that body tracking slash roto animation was what I really enjoyed doing. And I further developed in it. And now I've reached to a point where I've come into a managerial role. I think as you keep on growing up, at some point, there needs to be someone to guide and help others. And I think I was prepared to take that role. So I was ready to plunge into that sort of a role after a few years of being an artist.
So for me, I kind of knew that I wanted a creative technical role, a role where I have in some sense, full control of the final outcome, the creative output. So that was why I went into that, because that's what I wanted to do. But at the same time, as I, aged into my career, I realized that I also want to be in a more managerial position, like a visual effects producer, or somewhat like a combination of visual effects supervisor that involves both the administrative and the creative. But really, ultimately, had I known that, of course, when I just started, I was 14, so I didn't know about all the different like the different aspects of the roles that's available. So had I known that, visual effects producer is something that I could consider in the earlier days, then probably I might have gone with that route. But at the same time, I really do enjoy the creative aspect. So I actually like to do both, but I know that, that's technically, in a way, not really possible unless you kind of specialize in one area, like the creative, the technical, or the managerial. So, and of course, eventually level up to like a combination, like a visual effects supervisor, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Thank you. This is very exciting to learn everything about all of you over here. Given where we are today in terms of technology, do you think any of the future, like let's say if someone, let me rephrase this question. 20 years ago, the technology was very different, right? It was very, very, very expensive to make a visual effects film, for anyone for that matter. Today, technology has changed, and 40 years ago, it was very different, right? And then we are now moving into a very different dimension with the real-time engine and things like that. What would you advise someone if you were entering the industry today? Like, what would be your best advice to get into visual effects?
To be honest, Vani, getting into visual effects itself is something to do with your passion. So if I am passionate about animation, or I'm passionate about lighting, if I'm passionate about being in compositor, I think during our times, which is 20 years ago, we had to climb the ladder from the bottom down to top up, because you had to learn a lot, you had to understand the pipeline. And in today's state, we are exposed thanks to the internet, thanks to the courses, thanks to degrees in our industry. We are exposed to a lot of different softwares. We have trial versions which we can play around and figure out our niche. I think whatever passionates the person is what they should try and jump into, even if it's production. I mean, sometimes people wonder getting into production side of things or recruitment side of things. How is it with this industry? It's very different. It's you're still connected to being creative. You still have to come up with some ideas to hire the creatives, or work with the creatives. So I think it's something which we all are passionate and we know what we are good at, because today there are a lot more artists, and sometimes the jobs become quite less, or there's a lot of competition in the industry. So I would say play your stronger point forward.
Very, very good advice. So number one, if I take away, it's passion.
Me, I would say like portfolio is king, especially for the looking to the whatever. Portfolio is king. So in order to get in, I would recommend iterating on your Wi-Fi is. Yeah, but that's my answer if you caught that. My Wi-Fi is gone. All right, cool.
Yeah, I think the connection's dropping a bit.
Okay, and I'm back. Yeah, I don't know if anyone caught that, but portfolio is king. That's basically it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Vicky. That's a good suggestion. Nancy?
Yeah, totally agree with those points. Only thing I would add is maybe sort of set expectations on how, especially with, I think a lot of the jobs we're talking about today are quite large productions, right? Even like your Netflixes. Before, we used to be in the game of only 5-6 studios commissioning big films. Today we have Amazon, Apple, we have HBO, we have so many different things. It's an amazing world to be in. There is just so many more high quality productions going on. I would love to set everybody's expectations that when you come in, you don't have as much creative control over that shot, right? As you would think it's pipeline. An animator comes in and only do that performance, right? They don't design that character. That's a different department. They don't light that character. That's a different department. So everyone comes in, I feel like it's managed pressure, which is good. You don't, especially coming you're junior, you haven't done a lot of films yet. Your portfolio is mostly, let's say, your own work and things. It's good that you come in and you're not going to screw up a shot. But at the same time, also, set the expectation that you're going to contribute to one vertical, which is why, what Pujo was saying about the passion, like play with the whole shot and understand where is it that you are really adding the magic of where you're really strong at, and start them. But you can also explore, like you can move between different disciplines. They do have some shared technical ability and as well as the creative eye. There are shared elements. So always move if it's not the right one.
Got it. Wonderful, wonderful suggestions, and I'm just going to summarize them. One is passion. If there is passion and you're very clear, you can go the longer mile. If you're just doing it to do whatever you want to do, then maybe you don't move that forward in the chain. And the second thing that I took away is portfolio. Make sure you're presenting yourself carefully in terms of what you want to do, what you have done, and where you want to go. So the portfolio is basically those three things for me. And I love the idea that manage your expectations and understand and do your research about how big the industry has become and what part are you wanting to play in this visual effects, the future of visual effects as a person, right? I love the idea that you said something about magic, Nancy, in terms of like there's a magic about what we do, right? In terms of visual effects is something that there's so much work that goes in, and then that shot goes away, and there are probably 20, 30 people that have invested time and energy on it. So I want to talk a little bit about how important, doesn't matter which department you're in, whether you're in the modeling or the rigging, the animation, the layout in 2D, compositing, match moving, camera tracking, whatever the departments that you're in, how important do you think is the skill of communication?
Well, I would say definitely very important. I've worked at, like I said, many studios, and sometimes supervisors, you would hear them complaining over lunch about how, oh, I wish that this artist told me that they were going to do it in this direction because that's wrong. So I would say communicating whether you are clear of what you're supposed to do with that shot. Like example in post-vis where, okay, am I supposed to do it this way or that way? That kind of thing where the input from not only the supervisor but the director is important. So yeah, communicating if you're unclear, or even if you are clear, you just want to kind of reconfirm with the lead artist or the supervisor and say, hey, is this the direction you want me to go before I, spend man hours and money from the studio to take this shot further. So yes, definitely very important as a creative regardless of what kind of creative you are, whether you're, 3D, 2D, whatever, important. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. With many communication fails on the Lion King, we had just so many different departments working together. Typical things like animation needs environment so that they could do the footfalls properly, but the environment is changing because they're getting creative notes from the production designer. So those two parallel tracks are often ending up clashing at certain points. There's tasks that falls in between some of the departments sometimes, like once we will have like a chameleon on the branch of a tree. So that's a simulation department. That's also the modeling department. That's also the animation department. All three of their pipelines are not necessarily meant to be working in parallel. So all that good stuff, hopefully real time will help with that in the future. But without like a really properly set up communication protocol, it can't just be relying on people to speak to each other either. It needs to be properly production designed communication process that everybody is forced to speak with each other and keep each other in the know of their plans. Also want to point out, a lot of people don't have access to the scripts when they're working on certain shots, right? They actually don't have the overall picture of the story. So when you're making hundreds of creative decisions in your shot day to day without a whole context, and all you're going by is your supervisor's brief, a lot of things could go wrong. So like that briefing is so important to explain all the context that they need to know so that they're making the right decisions.
I think even communication is the key way to get your problem solved. I think there are sometimes a lot of different approaches to one shot. And if we've not communicated with our teams, we've not communicated with our supervisors, we won't understand what is their vision, what are their needs. So it's very important that we all, when we are stuck or when we have some doubts, we open our mouths, talk to each other. And communication is becoming really important because just as we have all gone through a patch of rough pandemic, we all were working with different people in different sites and different zones. And at that point, other than being able to communicate, there was no other way of getting ourselves to understand what that shot required. And just because I think in DNEC, just because we all were able to communicate with the other sites, we were able to say, okay, XYZ content will happen here, and then Y and Z will happen there. And when you blend it together, it worked perfectly. I think that was just because of strong communication. So communication is a very key role in, connecting a lot of things together and allowing us to grow and work like in a 24-hour cycle. If we finish something and someone else has to pick up and then after us, and because with everyone having their headquarters all around now, I think communication plays a role.
Excellent. I've been handed a few questions, and I'm gonna ask you. They're from the audience as well. What are some of the top reasons why there is disparity in gender diversity in visual effects industry? And do you believe that was the past? And do you like there is a past and we have to accept the past to some extent to move to the future? So do you think there was a disparity in the past, and do you think there's a disparity today?
So, Vani, to be honest, I have never felt the disparity because I've been in this industry now for almost 17 years, so 2 different decades. And I think it's more of passion. It's more to do with what a person and an individual likes. I think, yes, I would say that this particular stream does have long hours, does take up a lot of time of a woman. And hence, I think some women feel that if I want to start a family or I want to, be more family oriented, goal oriented towards making sure my child is upbringings are happening correctly. I think that's where they get stuck with it. And I would just say it's like any other job. I today have a 12-year-old and I'm able to give him time and I'm able to give time to this industry. I think it's more of a balance that we have to find and not make it more of a stereotyping that this is a man's world. Because it isn't. I think today the production side has a lot of women, recruitment side has a lot of women, and at DNEC, I will be very happy to say today we have key people in even managerial roles. We have women, and we also have a lot of artists who are women. I think it's just let's not stereotype it. Let's try and just be open and advise the women saying that, if you have the balance and you know how to balance your work life and your family life, this is also the industry for you. I mean, I think, Vani, even you have a family and you do manage it streamlessly and it's never coming to the way, right? So it's just a part of balance.
I was going to add on to what Pooja said. Basically, you said everything I was going to say. So to add on to that, though, I think the reason why we feel that there is a gender disparity is probably because everyone is talking about it, regardless of whether you're on visual effects or not. Everyone's talking about, oh, we need more women, blah, blah. But for me, same thing. I didn't feel that disparity when I was working in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, at all those studios. Yes, I did notice that there were more men in the workplace, but it doesn't mean that there are no women. There are a lot of visual effects producers who are women, actually really good ones too. And also there are some visual effects supervisors who are actually women as well. I think it's mainly because, like Pooja has said, and just to add on to that, I guess in this industry, the natural inclination, it's like most women are naturally drawn to it unless they are passionate in visual effects. They have to be interested and passionate in this field first before you try to force them in just because you want more women, right? So you don't want just any woman to go in. You want passionate, talented women to get in and who are interested in the field. So yes.
I think here in London, if I were to check statistic, I do think maybe in the production side we have very healthy sort of a female majority maybe, but on the artist side, which going up to supervisor side could be a little bit more man dominant. In virtual production, when I meet with portfolio of companies day to day, I think it is a little bit heavy on both white of a certain age, and they tend to be. Men. So I think maybe there is definitely some balance to be struck. But I will also add, when I was working on Cats at MPC in Bangalore and Mumbai, I thought it was very gender balance, and also all the head of creative departments and such were all women I was working with, and it was such a lovely group of women, a lovely dynamic to just be a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more empathetic to the challenges ahead. So definitely want to be intentional at encouraging more women to get into all these different roles that is not balanced today.
I love that answer, Nancy. I think that's the way to kind of go. I personally just wanted to acknowledge a couple of things from my side. When I was a young girl growing up in India, there was clearly a boys' club, literally a boys' club, and it continues to be that way for a long reason. Because a lot of the times, I don't see a lot of women in panels, in power. When I say in power, I'm talking about decision makers. I'm talking about studio owners. I'm talking about women visual effects supervisors, how many times have we seen a woman who's going there collecting data on tracking? How many women have we seen on set that is talking directly to the top directors in the world? Because unless, I think they're very, very handful. And I really want that change personally for the future. I don't see that enough. Like if I were to count numbers of the women that have won Academy Awards for being a visual effects supervisor, even to date, I think there are about 5. And if we take a look at the men, I have no agenda but to mention and call out, because the sooner we call out something like this, the more aware that it becomes. So in India, personally, I'll talk about it, that there are a few studios that do have women in leadership roles, but 90% don't. The men still are leading a lot of the things. And I would really recommend and request a lot of the people that are listening to this is to speak up and apply for those positions and say, hey, I would like to become this person in 2 years. Tell me how to get there. So whether if it's a recruiting thing, whether it is internal growth, that is something that's highly, highly required. When I ran Rhythm and Hues in Asia, that was one of my biggest agendas, was to make sure that I recruited women, even if they didn't feel that they were good enough. We put them in training. We gave them 6, maybe even 8 months, made them succeed, and made them eventually the head of departments very quickly, and promoted internally from different departments. And today they are the heads of pretty big studios. And I think a lot of the studios that are there have to do that. They have to really look at their portfolios and say, who can I equally train with a guy to become a visual effects supervisor? Just because a woman is not coming and saying, I want to be a visual effects supervisor, it's also for the person to say, I want that. And it's also for the studio to say, I am going to make space for that. And I think I think the ownership is obviously on us to say, I want it. But I feel like it's a balance. And the more we talk about it and the more we look at it and scan it, the more it becomes very visual and visible. 5 years ago, there was not even a panel with women. Even 2 years ago, when I was looking at India and I was looking at panels, no offense, but go back and review 2 years panels, and there were not even a woman moderator. They were all men that were doing the talk about the industry. And that's why this panel is very important, and I'm very upbeat about it. So thank you for your feedback, everyone. I'm going to take on the next question that has been sent. What are the challenges faced by women in visual effects and how to address them? Now, I think this is a very generic question. So I'm going to break it down. In terms of time, we already know it's like any other job that we do. So it's no big deal. Maybe some days you have production deliverables and you have to work a little extra, get the production out of the way. But specifically, I want to talk about the inner challenges of having the imposter syndrome. Like, I am not good enough. Someone else is better than me, because that's our biggest challenge for women. Of course, there's all this external noise that comes to us saying, oh, she's a woman or whatever. I have not heard that recently, but the inner voice has become a bit more negative. Like, you know what I'm talking about, the imposter syndrome. So have you dealt with that challenge personally in your life? And if you have, how have you overcome that? Any suggestions?
So I think what you said, I have dealt with it. It's when you walk into a room where I still sometimes deal with it, because in DNEC, in India at least, at a creative, I'm the only women creatively playing that role. So there are times when you're, with a bunch of men, and sometimes they just assume you are half a man versus a woman, and when they talk, they don't think about the language, they don't think about how they could hurt you, or sometimes they just forget that there's some woman sitting there, and there should be certain ways we talk or certain ways we carry out ourselves. So I think it's somewhere we also have to, the way we could fight it is to, either very nicely, gently be a part of it and tell them that thanks, I exist here. And if you, and because they are the ones who also want more women in, because they find women are more organized, they think women are more able to nurture their teams. So if you want someone like that in your team and you want to be walking on the same path with them, then I think we as women need to also voice ourselves and say, excuse me, this is something, when you talk like this, it's not correct, it's not right, can we be honest about it? And especially I think in Asian countries, it's very difficult sometimes for a male to take decisions or directions from a woman. And I'm sure we all have faced it if we were in our own countries. And being in India, I do sometimes face it. But I think it's where we also try and play the nurturing role, like we would explain a child or we would explain our men at home. We need to apply that same approach there. And when you start doing that, they also change their views and they start accepting women. And then they just realize that, yes, women are capable. It's not just that as they were grown up, that, oh, women are only meant to do XYZ things. It's like changing. It's a change of culture. And of course, it's women like us being more open and able to guide other women, that instead of scaring them about this industry, be very open what this industry has for us. I think somewhere we have, whenever someone would ask you, oh, how is this? And the first thing people will say, oh, long hours. No, it's long hours, because if we manage to do our work on time, it's not long hours. It's how you organize yourself. So it's more like telling them, jump in, have a feel, have a go, and judge the book for yourselves. Don't judge it by what we feel or what we are saying. I think when you do that, I think we'll have more women stepping in. Actually, there are a lot of women stepping in. I think, as Vani said, you have to push them. You have to. So whenever we at DNEC start any new greenlit programs like academies, we try to ask 4 or 5 women to be a part of it. And that's a stepping stone where they get the feel of this, how this industry is. And that's when they start realizing that it's not what they've heard about. And then they start getting, we've had, I think there's one greenlit program where we had like 10 women, and which was amazing. And that's, I think people are coming up.
So to answer the question about the imposter syndrome and what to do when you encounter that as a woman, for me, the only time I can remember that occurred that was very vivid in my memory is when I was 22 and I was still in school, and I happened to get a chance to work on The Walking Dead at the time. And that was a really big show back then. And being only 22, you're just like a young adult female. So I was thinking, okay, firstly, am I really that good to be at 22 working on this show right now? So that was really going on in my head as I entered the studio, which was Stargate Studios back then. But even with that imposter syndrome feeling, how I would imagine that it would be useful for other people who go through this thing to go kind of work with that is to acknowledge that you feel this way, but don't let that fear hold you back. So acknowledge it and press forward anyway. Because had I not acknowledged it and let oh my God, why am I doing here? Like, I'm only 22. I would quit the studio, right? But I didn't do that because I was given that responsibility. I'm not going to let them down. And number 3 is like, well, it's a great opportunity for 22 and still in school. So acknowledge the imposter syndrome whenever it occurs, and then proceed anyway. Don't care. Don't let it hold you back. Don't say, I'm going to quit because I don't feel like I'm good enough. Just proceed anyway. So that's what I did. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll just add a few things. For me, my comparison point is actually before my VFX life, I was in a tech company. So to me, it's gotten better because in the tech company, I actually encountered more of like coming to a table and everybody has this raging type A aggression, and you really have to fight for that seat at the table. So comparatively to me, VFX is actually a little bit better. People don't care to go into a meeting and try to land grab everything, because more scope means it's harder for you to deliver on time and people are a little bit more reasonable with just getting, sort of grabbing the parts that they think they could accomplish. So in that sense, I felt like overall it actually felt better for me. Have I had lovely CG soup ladies who told me that they have very bad experiences on set with people thinking that she's a runner, people thinking that she's like somebody's secretary? Absolutely. She had to go and fight for her place in that world. And I think those kind of behaviors shouldn't continue. People shouldn't assume any lady is on the production side. And then also seeing really positive things from really like our big Hollywood A-listers themselves, right? Like Lana Wachowski, right, one of our creators of Matrix series, really encourages women on her crew. We had a couple animated sequence now, all done by only female animators. We have like, I think when it starts from the top, it really helps as well, because it only takes a few runs. Like maybe at the beginning there isn't as many women in those new roles, but after a couple shows, they're going to have the experience and they level the playing field for everybody a little bit more. Same thing for minority with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. All of that is really starting to change, and a lot of amazing directors, female and of minority races, are given an opportunity they were not given before to direct their first film. So
absolutely, I think you guys just. I'm having chills, and Vicky, I want to be your best friend. I really loved the way that, one of the most beautiful words that you used over here was, I recognized it and I accepted it and I had to move on. And I think that's a mantra. I think that's a power that a lot of people don't understand. Just simply saying, I am feeling it. I accept that I'm feeling that comparison that I have with the external world and with my own expectations, and then saying, what can I do about it? They've hired me to do this job, so they must have seen something good in me, and then just simply move on and leave the imposter behind. And what a beautiful, beautiful thing to own. And for Pooja, and I really loved what you said about nurturing. Like nurturing the people that you're working with and kind of molding them to understand that, hey, I understand that you worked in a particular way and that's totally cool because that's how you guys did it. But here I am, and, like, thank you for welcoming, like, I'm glad to be a part of this group, but can we mold it like this? Can we try it this way? And kind of nurturing them in a way that is filled with empathy, and that's a fantastic takeaway. And Nancy, I cannot thank you enough for your tip about how do we present ourselves, how do we put ourselves out there, and then to speak up when we have to say something. I think that's great, and these are so inspiring. I'm taking notes. Do you want to say something from your own end without me prodding and asking questions? Am I doing okay with questions? Are you excited? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, you're doing great. This is such a lovely conversation, ladies. Yeah. Really enjoying.
So we have another 10 minutes, 8 minutes-ish. Anything that you would like to share on your own that you would like? Oh, I do have a couple of more questions, but if anyone has, let me know. Okay. What do your parents think about you today?
I think my parents... Oh, go ahead, Vicky.
Nancy, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think my parents are kind of they're great. I'm Chinese, so my parents are Chinese. They're great, typical Chinese parents. Would love they were engineers themselves. Love for me to be an engineer, which is the route I followed. But when I decided to switch into VFX, and it comes with not only a career change, but also with a pay gap. So like the banding wise, VFX is not as competitive as tech. But they were always like proud of me, to be honest. They were great. I think they defy their stereotypes, and they were always happy with whatever I choose to do, as long as it makes me happy, as long as it fulfills my sort of what I want to bring to the world. So yeah, that's all
Good.
good.
Excellent.
Well, I was gonna say my parents are also Chinese, obviously, So, but I'm in Singapore, so Singapore Chinese. But anyway, I would say that when I went into visual effects and I choose visual effects, to be honest, I was kind of a rebellious child, even though I was, quiet, whatever. So I would say that they won't have a say in whether or not I get to do this because I am doing it regardless. So that's very controversial, and obviously my father is kind of like a very angry person. But anyway, so right now today they are proud because of all the things I've done, working in the United States, stuff like that, and I'm only in Singapore for a while. In hindsight, they were probably like hesitant because it's the arts and creative fields are going to make money, blah, blah, blah. But now today they can say, oh yeah, I'm proud, yeah, I'm so proud, even though back then but now I'm proud, yes. So yeah.
So I think what Nancy and Vicky went through, I went through something similar. Only thing, everybody was wondering, as Vicky said, by picking this line, does one make a lot of money, was the biggest question my family had. But I think over the years where they've seen me grow successful, I think they're very happy where I stand. They're very happy where I'm able to do what I'm passionate about. And it's actually changed the thinking of not only my family, but a lot of other people around, their friend circles. They accept, they say, wow, it's great to see a woman able to stand up and do what she likes and make a name for herself. So I think they're very proud of me where I reached, and I think I'm very grateful for them that they never gave up on me, and they supported me, and they said, go ahead and try it out, and if you fall, we'll be there. But I think what they taught me was not to fall also, and always move ahead. So I think, so I just would say, just go with it, go with whatever you enjoy. And
that's so beautiful. I just wanted to end this session with love and support. And, we get a lot of love and support from the men in our life, our fathers, our brothers, our colleagues, so as much as it's the scope for women in visual effects industry, I wanted to say that a lot of the times, the few good men make amazing, powerful women. And we need to make more good men and more powerful women. And also women need to support women. A lot of the times we don't see that. And we see that also. So we need to kind of push for that goodness to be multiplied. So thank you so much, you wonderful people. It's been such a pleasure knowing you and getting to know you all a little bit more intimately. Have a wonderful holidays and see you all soon, hopefully.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Vani, for moderating.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Welcome. Stay in touch. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.